Welcome to another episode of the Cynical Writer. Before we get started, I just want to remind everyone that the best way to support this channel is to purchase my books, and I've left some links in the description section in case you're interested. Now, why do writers procrastinate? I think that procrastination is a universal thing amongst most writers, and most writers, believe it or not, don't really know how to deal with it. I mean, I certainly struggle with procrastination all the time. And even a lot of writers who say that they don't struggle with procrastination, a lot of them, frankly, are lying. All writers procrastinate to some degree or another. All writers struggle with schedules. I don't care if you're Stephen King or some writer that no one's ever heard of. All writers struggle with procrastination. And of course, there are various reasons for why writers struggle with procrastination. Every writer is different. But I think a lot of writers struggle with procrastination because of fear. Now, a lot of people assume that if a writer struggles with procrastination, it's because they don't actually care about their work. But in many ways, it's actually the opposite of that. Many writers actually care too much because they're afraid that when they sit down and try to write, that they won't do a very good job. So why even try? I know that's the case with me. I'm afraid that if I sit down and write, that my writing will be mediocre. And because of that, I come up with all sorts of excuses for why I can't write. Sometimes if I've had a bad night of sleep, I'll think to myself, why should I even bother trying to write today when it probably won't be any good because I didn't sleep very well? Or if I have a headache or I'm feeling a bit under the weather, I'll often think, why even try to write today when it probably won't be very good? And believe it or not, sometimes after I have a good writing session, sometimes that will actually decrease my motivation to write because I'll think to myself, well, this is probably the best I can do. If I try again, I'll probably mess up. I mean, that can even happen during a writing session where I'll write a paragraph, for example, and then I'll think to myself, this is probably the best I can do for the day, so I might as well not even continue. So writers will come up with all sorts of excuses for why they can't write. I mean, this is a universal thing among writers. And I think that writers feel a sense of resistance when they try to write, a sense of reluctance. And I think, though, that you can kind of compare procrastination when it comes to writing to taking a bath. A lot of kids, when they were little, including myself, were forced to take a bath by their mothers. And very often, we didn't want to take a bath. We said, Mom, I don't want to take a bath. But once we actually got into the tub, we often couldn't get out of the tub because the water just felt so good. So very often, as writers, we don't want to write. But once we actually get into the groove, we don't want to stop writing. I think many writers are like that. And that's why I think that a writer should never take on more than they can handle during a writing session. For example, I prefer to write no more than 2 hours a day, and usually it takes me around half an hour to get into the groove of writing, to get accustomed to typing, to looking at the words on the page. It takes me around 30 minutes to get into the groove, and if I can get past that initial stage of reluctance, then I can usually have a pretty productive writing session. Now, have there been exceptions to that? Absolutely. But I just think that if you can get past that initial stage of reluctance, then you will be able to probably have a pretty good writing session. Now, of course, all writers have bad days, and sometimes life just gets in the way and you can't do anything about it. I mean, I think we've all had days where our family require things of us, or we have to go somewhere, or we have to do something, or our responsibilities get in the way, whether it's schoolwork or our jobs or something like that. I mean, All writers have things that they have to do, but I don't think that if a writer wants to write, they should never allow reluctance or resistance to get in the way, because you're just going to hurt yourself in the end. And again, we're all guilty of it. All writers are guilty of procrastination, but it's definitely something that we need to overcome, and we can overcome it when we actually put our mind to it. Well, I hope you enjoyed my speech for today. Like I said before, you should purchase my books if you would like to support this channel. Don't forget to subscribe, and until next time, goodbye.